is unjust discrimination is not a compound word. Unjust is a description for discrimination. So what the Catholic Church is actually saying is there are justifiable ways to discriminate against LGBT people. You know, and if you just gloss over that part of the catechism, you get the sense that clearly, the catechism is saying that all discrimination against LGBT people is unjust and should be avoided. No, that's not what the catechism is saying. It's saying unjust forms of discrimination, so violence, you know, or death. But the Catholic Church also says, but there are justifiable ways we must discriminate against LGBT people. That's really what the teaching is saying, and he glosses over that, and I think that really has to be said. Is that, you know, and what are those just forms of discrimination according to the catechism? Not allowing us to adopt children because they see it as harmful. You know, not allowing us to marry because they see it as a threat to social order. So there, you know, that's something that I would like to see him in terms of dogmatic issues to really have separated out. Not to, you know, he gives the impression, and it's very deceptive, that all forms of discrimination are unjust in the church's eyes, and they're not.
I think Jamie has certainly stated the doctrine correctly, that they do use that unfortunate phrase, unjust discrimination, and you think that's a tautology, right? What kind of discrimination is just? In terms of why Martin glosses over or why he doesn't deal with it, I think his book is more about process than it is about substance. So in a way, we're asking him to write a different book when we go there. Not to say that that book doesn't need to be written. Of course it does. But, you know, you talked before about the imbalance of power, Jamie, between lay people and the bishops. I'd only point out that that's not simply the case with the LGBTQ community. That's the case with all of us. That's the case with 99% of the Catholics in the world. You know, how do we get that seesaw to even out? You know, how do we get to have an equal voice? We are members of a hierarchical church. How do we change that, or how do we at least get the hierarchy to hear our needs and our concerns in a way that's effective? And that's the question of the centuries. I'm not sure what the answer is.
Yeah, I agree. Yeah. My struggle is, Nick, I'll say this very quickly, Marianne, is that they do know the intimacies of gay life, and I think that's what I struggle with, and a lot of my friends do. You know, they don't know marriage, they don't know contraception, they don't know having children. Well, in theory, they don't. Boston Globe story says otherwise.
Right.
But they do know gay life intimately, and I think that's where the struggle is in terms of the imbalance of powers. It almost feels like an abuse of power because they do know something about our lives, but they either deny it or they're silent about it or they actively fight against it. So
why do you think that is so? I mean, I've heard so many gay people tell me that, and I certainly have known gay priests and bishops and so forth. Why do they do that? Is it?
I don't. Go ahead.
Honestly, I mean, I hope this isn't off base, but is it some sort of self-hatred?
Certainly, that's definitely, you know, a part of it. Some of the most vociferously anti-gay bishops we have, you know, we later find out, like the bishop in Minneapolis, you know, we find out that they are having, you know, gay relationships or were accused of inappropriately touching other men. So I think there is a lot of, you know, internalized homophobia and homo hatred. And that, I mean, look at the church militant guy. This is a perfect example. This guy, Michael Varus, who was the reason Jim Martin got uninvited from 3 talks. Michael Varus is gay, and he has disavowed his past as a gay man. And he speaks very, very violently spiritually about his past life as a gay man. But what is fueling his extremism is his homo hatred, his internalized hatred. He's a wonderful, not wonderful, but a sad, pathetic example of the way in which self-hatred and internalized homophobia can fuel this kind of spiritual violence.
Well, again, we can't deny that the spiritual violence occurs. It does. What we need to do, and I think Martin was trying to get us started on the way there, is what steps need to be taken so that this doesn't happen in our church. It's very clearly not a clear or an easy road, And again, I'm not a victim here. I'm a Catholic layperson who loves my church and would like to see my church do the right thing. And anytime I see my church discriminating against anybody, it's harmful. It's hurtful to me. It makes me question my own identity because I've given my life to this church.
I think that's a painful struggle for a lot of us. I'd just like to close. We are coming to the end of our time, but the final two comments I think are important to bring forward because they're representing a lot of what I'm hearing from Diego, saying he thought the book was well written and an easy read, and that oops, sorry, I just lost your comment, Diego. Thinking that the book will, he asked, do you think the book will be positive for those who are coming out now and the respective allies? And then a follow-on comment saying that it seems to be overall positive for followers of James Martin, and we all know he has quite a base of followers who have not thought much about this book. And I have to say, I've heard a lot from families and from other folks who are not part of the LGBTQ world, who have found that this book gives them something to grasp on to and provides a good introduction into this discussion. So I guess I would ask very quickly for a final thought as to, so what would be the next step for these folks who do read the book, for us who are sort of following the reaction to the book? Where do we go next?
I think there's nothing wrong with insisting on the dialogue that Martin describes. It needs to occur, and it needs to occur with the bishops and LGBTQ people in the room. It can't be an abstract discussion. It needs to be face to face, in a situation where there is no power imbalance, and where the bishops park their authority at the door and say, we're here simply as pastors, not as hierarchs. We need to have this dialogue because the current situation is untenable.
Thank you.
Yeah, and I think Marianne, the letter that we co-wrote with Mary Hunt is a really good example of just, we need a new conversation really, and we need new people in the room, and we need the hierarchy to be quiet, for a little while, and just to be in the listening, mode, and that we need women in the room, we need lesbians in the room, One of the struggles I had with the Martin book is all the people he thanks for being readers were all men, Now he is working on a second edition, is my understanding. So I'll be very curious to see what kind of alterations he makes based on the dialogue that he has started. But I think, just calling for a whole new conversation in which, we don't have to hear, supposedly celibate men slugging it out over our lives, and we can actually speak. And, so many of us have theology degrees, have doctorates in theology, or pastoral ministers, so we're very qualified to have that conversation too.
And we have doctorates in real life too. So. Great. Well, this hour has just sped by. There's clearly very much more to say about this. We will be putting up a link once we get the recording finalized, and I hope it'll be on our Facebook page, on our website, and lots of places. I hope folks will take that opportunity to add comments, to keep this conversation going, to use this perhaps for an evening with a community of friends or fellow Catholics to start off with this, and then take the conversation to new places and deeper places. I really want to thank Nick and Jamie for being with us tonight, for kickstarting the conversation in this forum, and for the work that you do. Nick, it's been great to welcome you to a Dignity event, and Jamie, it's always good to have you in the circle. So thanks to everybody who has participated this evening. Logan, do we have a closing slide to put up? Or no? Okay. So, folks, thank you all for your attendance, for your questions, your participation. We'd love to get your feedback. We'll be sending out a little survey, so please do send us your ideas. And again, let's keep the conversation going when the recording is available. So from wintry Boston, I wish you all, oh, there you go. Yes, please visit our website and let us know what you think, and we'd welcome your contributions to keep programs like this coming your way and for all the work that Dignity USA does. Again, thank you all for being part of this important conversation. Good night.